So, I want to talk about something today that I feel extremely passionate about, and that is the answer to the question, am I going to be struggling with food and eating for the rest of my entire life? It's a valid question because when we compare food, eating, dieting, weight loss to other addictions, the question very often becomes, well, what do we do because there's no abstinence? It might look like all these other addictions, but we don't have the option of just not eating anymore. So, are we just going to struggle forever? Okay, valid point. Here's how I answer this. There are four facts that we have to just start with. This is the facts we have to come back to. That is, we live in these bodies until we die. We do have to eat food every day until we die. We have emotions because we're human, and eating food creates an emotional reaction in the brain. We're born and designed to be emotional eaters, okay? So those are four facts, and we don't get to do anything about them. So we are going to be working with all of these components of our life forever. The question is it going to feel more like a battle or a game or a dance? That's where we actually have power. That's what we have control over, is not whether we have emotions, a body, or the need for food, but what are we going to do about that? How do we make it feel better is really the question. Because similar to technology, for example, it's extremely addictive, but we're not going to be abstinent. The answer is not throw out all your computers and phones and never look at a screen again. It's we have to figure out how to have a healthy relationship with it. This is all gray area kind of stuff. So, what we have to do, this is the way that I think about it. We can compare it to someone who, for example, has been medicated for any kind of mood disorder or any kind of mental illness. Because part of how that works, if you've never experienced this, then you might not know personally. But part of treatment is, let's say someone's diagnosed with depression and taking an antidepressant, okay? How do you know that the medication is still working? How do you know whether it's sadness or depression? Because that can be really tricky to figure out. Well, the thing is, you're not going to leave it to your own personal judgment because we can't always really trust that. There's a chance that we might say, this isn't depression, this is just sadness, I'll get over it. But that's a very dangerous, risky thing to do because if it's not caught, it turns into depression. That might be suicidal ideation. Well, that's dangerous. That's a risk thing. That's a safety thing. So we can't leave it to our own judgment about how we're feeling. What we have to do is look at how we're behaving. So someone might say in this situation, I'm sleeping a lot and I don't really have an appetite and I'm isolating a lot more. I don't really feel like being social. And it's winter again, and that can be hard for me. So this person would look at these behaviors, these outward behaviors, and say, these are my symptoms of depression. Maybe I should call my psychiatrist. Maybe I have to get something figured out or regulated. Okay. So that's how that works. It requires an objective perspective to look at the person's behavior and say, maybe you should get this looked at. Maybe you should check this out. Maybe we're not actually okay. Maybe it's a little bit more than sadness. Okay? So the reason that I say that is because we have to do the same thing. The goal is to be able to create that objective observer perspective so that you can look at your behaviors around food and use them as information for what's going on inside. The only thing that gets in the way of this working is when we are in denial of what it really is. Like I said, if that person said, no, no, this isn't depression, it's just sadness, it's fine, I'll be fine, all is well, okay? That's denial. And it can get tricky and risky and dangerous. We don't want to do that. So, for example, if something that's happening with you is maybe you don't want to eat one day because you're feeling fat, okay? and maybe you feel uncomfortable in your body and all of those things. And so you don't want to eat as much, or you don't want to eat what you want, or whatever it is. Okay. So if you're in that situation and you're telling yourself that, no, it's fine, this is the decision to not eat food today is really rooted in health and love. And that's really what this is about. If we're not being honest and we're not being our own kind of devil's advocate, if we're not objective enough to look at our behaviors and say, that's a diet. That's a diet. That's a thing that you would do if you were on a diet. You don't want to do that. You don't want to trust the feeling of what you should do. You have to look at the behaviors of what you're actually doing to determine where you actually are in this journey. But the goal, in order for this to be a dance and a direct line of communication from you to you, more than a battle and a war for the rest of your life, is the objective observer who's going to be able to look at you, not shame you, not judge you, not make you feel bad about anything that you're doing. All of your behaviors are rooted in safety and survival if you can't understand why you're doing what you're doing. The problem is, the reason so many of us get stuck here in this battle is because there's so much shame and there's so much guilt and there's so much regret that we aren't able to be objective. We're not able to look at ourselves and just say, it's okay. Whatever it is that you're doing around food, eating your body, it's okay. But what does it mean? How are you feeling? What are you thinking? What are all the things that are going on so that you can get the full story? And once you have the full story on why you're doing what you're doing, how you're actually feeling, what you're actually thinking, you don't need any other expert or meal plan program or anything to tell you how to behave around food. So that's the thing, is we have to watch out for our own denial of where we really are and what we're really thinking and who's really driving the bus. Because let me tell you, it doesn't feel doomy and gloomy to me personally that I'm going to be working with this thing forever. I'm not wrestling it, I'm not battling it, I'm living with it. And I'm kind of dancing with it. And it's a conversation. And it's great. And during times of really high stress, yeah, the food issues come up. Just like if it were any other addiction, if a recovering alcoholic goes through some trauma or some extreme stress, they might find themselves drinking again. That's how this works. We're humans and we can't get out of this. So I think it starts with an acceptance of what is, of the four facts. We have a body forever, we're eating food forever, we have emotions forever, and they are connected forever. And that's okay. It doesn't need to be scary. It doesn't need to be awful. It doesn't need to hurt forever. But I made this video because I think it's important we all get clear that the solution is not to get out of it and to eliminate it. The solution is to accept we are living with this for good, and it can be okay. It's going to be okay. So, a lot more videos are coming about how do we actually make it okay and how do you get to a point where it feels good. But, guys, the truth is, let's just stop fighting the reality of what is. Let's try to stop looking for ways out. It's going to be okay right here where we are in our bodies, eating food, feeling the feelings. Okay? I promise. If you have any questions, please leave them. And as always, thank you so much for watching.